Now, over my short-lived life as a comic book fan, I've read many different stories over the years of different heroes and villains, including Batman, Green Lantern, and Spider-Man, to name some of my favourites. However, there's always been one hero in particular to me that has been criticised for being one-dimensional and boring, old-fashioned, etc. But to me, he's always stood out as the epitome of what a superhero really is. Superman. Now, while Superman isn't my favourite character in all of comics, I will admit there are more complex and interesting stories out there. There's just something about reading a Superman comic that can move you, where the comic can embody the ideals of the character itself. Hope for a better tomorrow. Now, I think several stories encapsulate the idea of Superman and his nature, of how he wants to help people and the world at large, such as All-Star Superman, which I believe is one of the greatest adaptations and depictions of the character that we've ever seen. However, that isn't the story I'm going to be talking about today. The one that I am going to be talking about today doesn't have no calamity, no world-ending threats, no Justice League team-up. This story is a lot more grounded. The point of the video isn't for me to talk about every detail of the comic, as I encourage you to go out and read it for yourselves, but instead is to highlight some of my favourite moments and instances where the comic highlights Superman's character and how he is viewed in the world. We see dozens of reporters swarming Superman, as everyone bar Lois can't wrap their heads around the idea of Superman just simply walking. One reporter even asks if there's a crisis. There's always a crisis, which I love that J. Michael Straczynski is referencing the seemingly endless amount of crisis events that have occurred in DC over the years, and still long after this story was published. As Superman continues to walk, he runs into a local gang of thugs where one of the overconfident morons thinks it's going to be a good idea to try and sell Superman some drugs. After ignoring his remarks, we see Superman just effortlessly ruin the guy's week by using his heat vision to burn all the drugs in the guy's house, showcasing the ease at which Superman deals with street-level criminals. He tells the kid that they won't be coming back anymore, and the kid unironically brings up a good point that can be used to critique heroes like Superman, who says that they'll just move somewhere else, showing that people like Superman are just a stopgap measure. But that is a conversation for another day, and the whole idea of could superheroes do more. Now, there are some more light-hearted moments in this story here, for instance where Superman sees this old guy, then informs him that he needs to go see a doctor about his heart, as Superman uses X-ray vision to see, which, again, I just find really intriguing how much help Superman can provide the average person, as this old man takes Superman's message as if it was a word from God himself. What follows next is one of two of the more serious tones in the comic book, where Superman's heart and dedication towards people are really put on full display for everyone to see. Felicity Rose is in the process of jumping to her death. Superman arrives, and we see the cop's face lighten up when he sees the Man of Steel on the scene, but then immediately his expression drops when describing the events of Felicity's life. He somewhat jokes to Superman if he could just grab her, which would be saving him a lot of time, but Superman refuses and says he'll talk to her because Superman doesn't want to act as God to this woman by taking away her choice. Again, whether this is moral and ethical is a conversation for another day, because the argument does remain, should Superman just go and grab her anyway? But again, it's not for my place to say. However, just as quickly as his face soured, his smile returned as Superman flew away, confident that the Man of Steel would get her back safely. Superman takes flight for the first time in the story as he goes to meet Felicity. He screams at Superman, saying how if he wanted to, he could just take her away forcibly, as Superman stands there in the sky, motionless, just letting him get out all the rage and frustration. After promising to keep his word, Superman, in one of the most gut-wrenching moments of the comics, promises that he will not save her if she decides to jump, as the pain and sadness is clearly detailed across Superman's face. She continues to rage at Superman, detailing her grievances with life and how it isn't fair, in which Superman responds by agreeing with her, saying that it's not fair or unfair. It just is. Although before I said Superman didn't want to act as God to Felicity here, I do want to mention the artistic choice to draw the sun around Superman's head like this, lending reference to the angels in Christianity, and how whether he wants to or not, Superman here is representing an angelic presence, as if Felicity is looking up to God, and that a saviour has been sent from the heavens to come save her. Hours go by, Superman waiting in the wings for her, as neither move all night long. When she asks him if he could turn the light off, instead of just asking them, Superman, showing how committed he is to not leaving her side, instead decides to use his laser vision to turn the lights off. As the night draws on, Superman suggests, with one of the most motivational speeches that I've read in comics, if you think there's a chance, no matter how small, that there might just be one more happy day out there, then take my hand. As the scene is wrapping up, the officer from the beginning asks Superman if he really would have let her fall. After a long silence, Superman tells the officer goodnight and continues on his journey. I've gone back and forth on what I think would have happened, but you'll just have to let me know what you guys think below. For the time being, the story does return to some more light-hearted adventures, such as Superman deciding he wants to play some basketball, while also Superman fighting some alien android, while simultaneously dropping one of the coldest lines in comics that I've ever seen. The hard part isn't hurting me. The hard part is surviving me. While Superman is catching up with Lois, she remarks how she thought no one from his crowd had shown up yet, but she replies that they definitely think he's gone crazy. As the panel zooms out, showing that there's always at least one person from Superman's crowd who keeps tabs on him. The final part of the story that I'm going to cover is the second of the more serious issues of the comic, and perhaps one of my favourite moments from Superman ever, and definitely the act that made me want to cover the story. A young boy runs into his house, ecstatic that Superman has come into town, as he interrupts his mum on the phone. We later see the boy being mocked by his friends for making a Superman logo, but this time he has a black eye, as he starts listing all the incredible things Superman can do with his powers, like making diamonds out of coal, melt steel with his eyes. He mutters under his breath the harsh reality that he's living in, of how he wants Superman to fix his relationship with his mother and his father. As he says this, we watch his father come out the shadow and tear his poster apart, now becoming clear where he got the black eye from. As his mother tends to his damaged eye, he desperately tries to reassure her that things will be okay, because Superman is coming, and he'll fix everything. As he runs outside to hang his poster back up, he hears his father from inside the house. He runs back inside to try and save his mother, but as he's only a child, he can't do anything, and is ultimately beaten and thrown into the basement. As fate would have it, Superman walks by at this very moment as he notices the boy's poster, but does walk on. As we, the reader, are hoping that somehow Superman can go and save the boy. In the small hope that Superman hears him, he screams out his name, but nothing. He slumps back into the corner of the room, given up hope, defeated. When out of nowhere, he looks up, and Superman is standing at the door. In a very tragic moment, the boy asks Superman if his dad beats him too, as he notices makeup on Superman's face to cover up bruising that Lois applied to him before. There's something so sweet yet tragic that this is how the boy is meant to relate to the Man of Steel. Just as everyone would want, Superman takes it to the boy's father like there's no tomorrow. Or at least he could have done. which he says to himself, but instead takes him to the police. Superman recognises the lack of control he'll have over the situation after the police take care of things, as the father could just come back and make things worse again. So, as a counter to this, Superman gives the boy a phone number that the boy needs to call every single day, so Superman can be updated and make sure that the boy's father never hurts him again, as he warns him that if there ever isn't a day where Superman is contacted, there will be consequences. With how convoluted stories can be these days, and how different adaptations can change characters for better or worse, I think it's important to sometimes bring the characters back to the basics, and see what characters like Superman are meant to bring into audiences. And I really, really hope that this is captured in the upcoming Superman film by James Gunn next year. Please be good.